Britain's Business Secretary, Kemi Badenoch, is trying to sign a new trade deal with Israel, even as that country is under investigation for genocide at the World Court.
It looks like they have taken great pains to make sure that they're staying within the confines of the law. We applaud them for that.
Israel's world-leading tech sector. It's why we want to modernise and upgrade our relations with Israel.
I'm joined now by my colleague Mark Curtis to discuss this story.
Thanks, Phil. It's very good to be here.
You've just published an article on our website about this trade deal that Kemi Badenoch is trying to sign with Israel. For people who aren't familiar with it, can you tell us why people should be so concerned?
This trade deal is quite important, actually, in the context of UK-Israel relations and what is going on in Gaza, because it's another aspect, in my view, of British complicity with Israel's attack on Palestinians. The latest round of trade talks between the UK and Israel took place last month. They actually took place right at the time that Netanyahu's government was openly announcing that they were about to attack Rafah in Gaza. And there's been 2 rounds of trade discussions between the UK and the Israelis since the war in Gaza began last October. And Britain is seeking to deepen trade with Israel while it is engaged in this genocide against Palestinians. I mean, much of the world would like to see the UK and other states impose sanctions on Israel and actually reduce trade, stop trade altogether. But Britain is going in the opposite direction and is actively negotiating to increase trade with Israel.
Some people have argued that any kind of embargo on trade with Israel would hurt the UK economy. What do you make of that argument?
It's not that this trade is of such vital importance to the UK economy that it couldn't be halted or curbed. Israel is a small trading partner of the UK. It's the 41st largest trading partner of the UK. The trade amounts to something like 0.3% of Britain's global trade with all countries, according to British government figures. So it's a minuscule amount of money, actually, that we're talking about. Such a small amount that if British ministers really did want to put pressure on Israel, then they certainly wouldn't be holding these talks to deepen trade with them. They would be able to impose sanctions with relatively few costs on the British economy.
The Israeli minister that Badenoch has been working with is a man called Nir Barkat, who many people might not have heard of before. I've only recently come across him myself, and I'm struck by how similar his kind of cadence and political style is to Benjamin Netanyahu. Can you tell us a bit more about who this man is?
Barkat is a very prominent Israeli politician. He was a former mayor of Jerusalem for a decade, and he's now regarded as a very senior figure in Netanyahu's Likud party. In fact, Nir Barkat is tipped as being a possible successor to Benjamin Netanyahu as the Likud leader and therefore potential prime minister. I mean, Barkat's comments on Palestinians have been a great cause of concern over the last few months. I mean, Barkat has used air quotes in an interview, for example, when he spoke about innocent Palestinians in Gaza.
Helping the innocent people in Gaza.
Which sort of implies that he doesn't think there are any innocent Palestinians in Gaza as Israel attacks them. Barkat has also given another interview where he's threatened to wipe off the face of the earth the enemies of Israel. So some of his comments are very concerning, and it means that Britain cannot disassociate these trade talks that it is having with Israel with the Israelis' attack on Palestinians. This is kind of part and parcel of what's going on at the moment, and therefore gives us great cause for concern, I should say.
In your article, you talk about the timing of these trade talks with Israel, which seem to be in particularly poor taste. The latest round coming just days after 3 British aid workers were killed by the IDF in Gaza. That incident led to a lot of discussion about whether arms sales to Israel should be suspended, but the trade talks seem to keep flying under the radar.
Yeah, I mean, I think the timing of all this is really important, as you say. We're talking here about the 8th of April. So the 8th of April is a week after those 3 British aid workers were killed by an Israeli airstrike. British aid workers. 7 days later, Kemi Badenoch starts the latest round of trade negotiations to deepen trade with Israel. And on the same day, as far as we know, the 8th of April, she also approved continuing arms exports to Israel. So, I mean, this is clearly another major aspect of Britain's general support for Israel, alongside the military support that Declassified has done a lot to reveal, and alongside the diplomatic support that we've also done quite a lot to reveal, and the constant apologias and defense of Israel in Parliament, at the UN and elsewhere by British ministers. So we really should be talking about these trade relations a lot more. I mean, they have been taking place very quietly. There's been very little emphasis on them. It is another aspect of a way in which Britain is legitimizing the Israeli government as it engages in a genocide. Britain has shown itself to be one of Israel's major international supporters, and to be negotiating an increased free trade agreement at this time is a very clear signal to the Israelis. I mean, it's a political signal that we support you. You know, that there aren't going to be any sanctions against you for conducting these brutal attacks against Palestinians. We support that. We will continue to legitimize your government through our trading relations, and that's something which really does need a lot more attention, I think, in Britain and elsewhere.
The Israeli minister that Badenoch is talking to has predicted that Israel will see a boost in its tech trade after the war, based on its previous experiences of going into Gaza. Is there a concern that this trade deal is actually another way of just boosting arms sales?
From the information that we have, the first time that Badenoch met Nir Barkat was in March last year, when she accompanied this big British trade delegation to Israel to beef up trade between the UK and Israel. And what Private Eye revealed is that she appears to have met at Elbit Systems, the Israeli arms company, on that visit to Israel. And that's extremely controversial, given that Elbit, who get a lot of contracts from the British Ministry of Defence, are complicit in Israel's attacks on Palestinians. They're a major provider of military equipment to Israel. And if this free trade agreement that Britain is negotiating with Israel, if that is seen as also increasing military trade with Israel, then that makes it even more controversial than how British ministers have pitched this agreement so far. I mean, they've said that this agreement is mainly about negotiating a liberalisation of services between the two countries. But if Badenoch is talking to Elbit Systems and other potentially Israeli arms companies, clearly that's another layer of relations as well.
Kemi Badenoch is, of course, a protege of Michael Gove, who has supported her in the past to try and become the next leader of the Conservative Party. Gove himself, we know, is extremely pro-Israel. He's loath to admit that the settlement building in the West Bank is illegal under international law. Can you tell us just how extreme this current group of Conservative cabinet ministers that we have are compared to, say, someone like Margaret Thatcher?
We do see a much more extreme range of ministers in office now than we've ever seen before in British history, even going back and compared to the Thatcher government or the Blair government. I mean, both Thatcher and Blair's ministers were very supportive of Israel. They provided arms. They supported Israel in various of its wars. But there were always qualifications actually attached to that level of support. There were times when Britain restricted arms exports to Israel. There were times when there was some criticism of Israeli policies under Thatcher and Blair. That's virtually gone out the window now. There's no halt to arms exports. There's no curb on arms exports. As far as we know, there's no restrictions at all on the type of equipment that the UK is providing to Israel. And there's been almost no criticism at all leveled at any Israeli actions, as British ministers are completely aware that Israel is violating international law and committing war crimes. I mean, they must be, because everyone can see it. And ministers have leveled no accusations, no warnings to Israel over any of that. And that is unusual. That's more extreme than has ever taken place in the UK before.
Mark's latest article, Kemi Badenoch, Trading on Genocide in Gaza, is available to read on our website. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please click the button below and consider making a donation to Declassified's work either through the Super Thanks button or by the page on our website where you can join Declassified from as little as £3 a month. Thanks for watching.